The courtroom was silent when the judge leaned forward, tapping the old veteran's medals with the tip of his pen. "These," he said with a smirk. "Are you sure they're supposed to be real?" The soldiers in the back shifted uncomfortably. The old man didn't speak, he didn't lift his eyes. He just sat there in his faded jacket, the same jacket he had worn during his last deployment nearly 4 decades ago. And just when the room broke into whispers, the back doors burst open. A general in full uniform walked in, his face carved with fury. "Stop the proceedings," he commanded, and everything changed. The veteran Henry Cole had seen more wars than most of the young soldiers in the room had years of life. But today, instead of being honored, he stood accused. Someone had claimed his medals were forged, that he was pretending to be someone he wasn't. Henry had never cared about recognition, but he cared about honor, and losing that felt worse than losing a limb. His hands trembled slightly as he waited for the judge to continue. Henry had worn the same denim jacket since the day he retired. He never expected it to become a target. But as he walked into the courthouse that morning, people stared at him the way you stare at someone pretending to be important. He felt each glance like a slap. The judge, a man known for his impatience, didn't even try to hide his disdain. "Mr. Cole," he said, "these medals appear inconsistent, unverified, perhaps even purchased." His voice carried just enough sarcasm to sting. The courtroom watched Henry as if waiting for him to break. Henry's attorney whispered, "Sir, just speak. Tell them where you earned them." But Henry didn't. Not because he couldn't, but because he refused to speak of the horrors behind those medals. Some memories were too sacred. Some were too painful. Behind Henry, young soldiers in uniform whispered quietly, their eyes fixed on the aging veteran. They could see the scars on his hands, the stiffness in his shoulders, the weight in his gaze. Signs of someone who had carried the nation on his back. The judge cleared his throat. "We will need proof," he said sharply. "Documentation, witnesses, statements." Henry finally looked up. "Everyone who was with me," he said slowly, "didn't make it home." His voice was gravel, worn by time and grief. The judge sighed dramatically, as though Henry's truth was an inconvenience. "So you're saying there is no one alive who can verify any of these claims?" Henry stared at the judge, not angry, just disappointed. He had buried friends with those same medals. He had slept in mud, crawled through fire, and carried wounded brothers on his back through darkness. And today, he was being mocked for it. The judge leaned back in his chair. "Without proof, these medals remain questionable." He tapped one medal again, almost tauntingly. The tap echoed. The whispers grew louder, and Henry felt something inside him sink deeper than ever before. Then the courtroom doors swung open. A tall figure stepped through the doorway, a general in full dress uniform. His ribbons shimmered under the courtroom lights. His boots struck the floor with authority. His presence alone froze the room. Every soldier in the gallery immediately rose, but the general wasn't looking at them. He was looking directly at Henry. "Proceedings are halted," he commanded, his voice thunderous. "Judge, you will step away from that man's medals." The judge blinked, visibly startled. "And who, exactly, do you think you are to interrupt?" The general didn't let him finish. Instead, he stepped forward, his eyes burning with a mix of rage and respect. "I am Major General Marcus Jennings, former commander of the Special Operations Task Group, and Henry Cole saved my life." The room went dead silent. The judge swallowed hard. "Saved your life?" Jennings nodded. "Not just mine. 27 soldiers owed their survival to this man, including one who later became a commanding officer." His voice softened, but only slightly. "Me." He turned to Henry. The old veteran raised his eyes for the first time, and a flicker of recognition passed between them. Two men from different eras of their lives, bound by a battlefield that no one else in the room had ever seen. The general faced the court again. "These medals," he said, placing his hand gently over them, "are real. I watched him earn 3 of them with my own eyes." Henry Cole was the kind of soldier legends were made from, the kind who never told his story because he lived it. The soldiers in the back straightened, their expressions shifting from doubt to awe. The judge flustered, stammered, "General, I wasn't aware." "That's exactly the problem." Jennings cut in. "You didn't ask. You judged." He turned and stepped closer to Henry. "Sir, I should have come sooner." His voice lowered, filled with guilt. I knew you didn't want attention, but I should have stood by you anyway. Henry's eyes glistened. You were leading men, he whispered. That was enough. Jennings shook his head. Not when a hero is being questioned. The general then addressed the courtroom. Dismiss this case. Restore this man's honor, and for once, show the respect he never asked for but absolutely deserves. The judge nodded, humbled. Case dismissed. Henry's breath trembled, relief, disbelief, and gratitude mixing all at once. The soldiers in the gallery rose on their own, not by command, but out of respect. They stood tall, saluting the man who had given everything and asked for nothing. Henry slowly rose to his feet. His eyes met the general's. Thank you, he said quietly. Jennings shook his head. No, sir. Thank you. As the two men walked out of the courtroom together, side by side, the young soldiers watched with admiration. They weren't just seeing two veterans. They were witnessing history, honor, and sacrifice embodied in two men who had walked through fire and survived. And as the sunlight spilled across the hallway, Henry realized something he had forgotten long ago: honor can be questioned, but truth never can.